What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why Tesla's doing a good job at holding up so far, as we're seeing some buyers trying to defend it, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30. So what's happened to Tesla so far is that we saw Tesla dip quite a bit yesterday, hitting 363 as support. What's interesting is that since that happened, okay, Tesla came back down only to bounce. So when you zoom into like the 5 minutes time frame, we're looking for a potential inverse head and shoulders reversal. Right now, it's still valid. That's the good thing about this. This is still very much valid. There's no sign that Tesla's lost 363 or this low right here. So the inverse head and shoulders remains. And then if we could break resistance at 375, I'm going to be looking for a bigger push into the 380s pretty easily. It may happen today or it may happen as soon as early next week. So far, that is looking a bit more likely. And there's been a lot of bad news that came out for Tesla. You know, their sales in China have fallen 11.5%. Competition is continuing to intensify. This is just for the month of January, but don't forget that many of these buyers are still waiting for the Model Y refresh. So they sold about 63,000 units in January. That's down about 11.5% compared to the same month that we saw in, I believe, 2023 January. I think that's what they're referring to. And there's a lot of competition right now between Tesla and many Chinese domestic EVs, but don't really judge the numbers yet. It's just a slight decrease, and things could really, really change depending on what happens with their new models. So we'll be very patient with this one. There's also some news that President Trump wants to basically change a lot of initiatives for funding EV charging. There's been some talk about that. It's about $5 billion worth of funding that has been used for many quote unquote green initiatives that would include building more public chargers. So far, Trump does not really support this, at least for the time being. It's not going to affect Tesla too badly. I'm sure Tesla's going to be fine nonetheless, despite this. But I just wanted to put this out there that this is still a little bit more negative for many EVs out there. Despite that, okay, we saw a small dip in Tesla to about 367. What's good is that we made a higher low here during this pre-market. This is a higher low compared to this low. As long as that could hold, that could be a sign that this wants to reverse. So if you look at Tesla like this, we have like a left shoulder here. We have this head. You could argue this is the right shoulder, this is the right shoulder, and so far we're holding up. Break this resistance at 375. We're looking for a big breakout like that. If we end up getting that, that could help Tesla bounce as long as this support holds. So as long as we don't lose 363, I think Tesla has the potential to bounce. And then what else is helping the markets push would be the jobs numbers. The non-farm payrolls were at about 143,000 below expectations. And then unemployment's now at 4% according to reports. That's below expectations as well. This is good news because it once again kind of feels that soft landing narrative that there's not going to be extreme pain to the point where it's like a recession, at least for the US for the time being, despite the fact that we have elevated interest rates. That's the narrative that Jerome Powell has been pushing, and so far the market likes it. Now, let me just say I don't fully trust these numbers because you have to consider that they may have to get revised later. But for now, this is bullish for the markets. The market's pushing upon this data coming out. Even though we had Amazon's earnings yesterday, and Amazon saw good earnings but weak outlooks, the share price dipped, but that wasn't enough to stop this market. It's very, very resilient. Today, we have basically very close to about 200,000 calls expiring, and we have over 800,000 puts expiring at 2.82 put to call ratio. My guts tells me they're going to try to squeeze shorts. So, what do I see for Tesla? It's very simple, guys. I'm not really worried about breaking out. I just want to see, can we truly establish that this is our low at 363, and are we going to make a higher low at 367? It's not going to hold. As long as that holds, this could be looking for a breakout, and I think the 380s could be coming very soon. I see potential in this chart for an inverse head and shoulders, and it's going to be pushing very, very nicely to 386 or above. This could be trying to bounce off of this, so that's all I care about. As long as we don't lose support down here, we could consolidate a bit and maybe try to push later on for 375 or above, and eventually back to 380 as the most likely possibility, as long as we hold our key levels. As far as SPY goes, we're bullish. Why do I say we're bullish? Because on the 4-hour time frame, Let me just fix this. Give me 1 second. We're holding the wedge again, okay? We dipped a tiny bit and then the buyers came back. SPY is near 607 right now. So that's very close to my 609 to 610 targets that I've been talking about. And I think that they're going to try to push this close to all-time highs near that 610 area. I do think that's the most likely possibility. We're uptrending while in this wedge. So keep in mind that once we get to like 609 to 610, if we start breaking this lower trend line, that's a sign that this could start breaking back down. But right now, okay, look at this trend line right over here, right? What you'll see is that we keep on holding support. So we hit the lower trend line, bounced off it over and over again. So it's still bullish. I think we're going to try to fill this imbalance. I think we go up to 609 to 610 as the most likely possibility. If we lose 602, I will turn back to bearish. I think we could be dipping to about 600 and 598. But as long as we're above 602 and 604, we're favoring a push to 609 to 610 on SPY. On the QQQ, very similar setup. This is holding support very, very nicely. I might have to adjust this just a teeny bit right over here. Just want to adjust this just a little bit. It's okay. So anyways, this could be on its way up to about that 530 resistance. We'll see if we could break this on the QQQ or not. If we do, we're looking for 533. I would be a little bit more careful with the QQQ though, because it is a tough resistance that we're testing. Let's see if we can break past 530 to push for 533. And then we'll see if the wedge plays out later on. But for now, that's what I'm basically looking for. On the Russell 2000, we're struggling to break past 230. If we break that, we're bullish. Our main support's at 226, so whichever way we break will determine a bigger move. I think we might retest 230. We'll see if we break it for 232 or not, so give it some time. Otherwise, it's just range bound. ES is currently above 6100, so notice that's actually on an uptrend. As long as we're above that, we could slowly push our way up to about the 6120s. It's still technically bullish unless we end up losing 6060. We favor the upside. NQ went very close to my target, actually touched 21,900. So we'll have to see if we can try to hold above this support. It might slowly shuffle up here, but just keep in mind we're very close to tough resistance. The closer we get to 22,000, the more likely we are to reject. But I do think this could try to push a bit more before we see that big move. Bitcoin's breaking out here. We just got to hold above 98,000. If we do, I think we return to the 100,000s. We'll see about that. Nvidia is at 128 as long as we close or hold above 126.9. This could be favoring 130, 132. Then eventually that gap fill back towards 140. Looks bullish to me. As long as you don't lose 126, I think Nvidia could continue to push. But that's just one support. There's others as well. Tesla might tip a little bit with the negative news, but as long as you don't lose 363, yes, I could be looking for a bounce in Tesla as long as we hold our key support. For Apple, we have, an inverse head and shoulders. Break past resistance, we're looking for 235.9. We have resistance at 232. We're forming a bullish wedge, so it might consolidate before it tries to push for 235. We'll see if it can break out or not. For AMD, we're going to be watching to see, can we form a double bottom? Can we make a higher low or not? We need to see if we get that bottom right here. So we're going to be watching to see, can we hold around 107? So give it some time. For coin, we have a double top here. It might try to rebound for essentially 277, so I see potential in this. Amazon dumped really hard after earnings to about 222, and now it's trying to bounce. It's now only down 2%, so it's not even like much of a move. It's actually very normal. We're going to be looking for 235 as our target as long as we're above 233. Meta remains resilient, looking for 720 and 725 as our targets. Microsoft could be going for 420 if 416 holds. And Google, as long as we hold above 191, we could try to bounce for 195. Keep in mind the VIX is still looking bearish. It might dip a little bit more towards the 14s, but then the VIX might form a bottom around there. So I still think there's more room for it to drop, and we'll see how it affects the markets. With that being said, guys, I'm not saying Tesla's going to explode yet. What I am saying is that I just want to see, as long as we hold 363 and maybe even like 368, as long as we hold these supports, okay, we have an inverse head and shoulder setup, which could lead to a nice breakout later on today, if not by next week, for a bounce. This has potential. As long as we hold our supports, I think that this could attempt that bounce. As long as 360 doesn't break, there's a good chance Tesla tries to bounce. With that being said, I thank you for listening. I would love to see that happen. We'll watch your levels just to be safe, and peace out.